The lie you've been sold about rest and why your business can't survive without it. Welcome to Soft Girl Era, the sacred pause Black women have been waiting for. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dolce, like sweet softness whispered in French. I'm your guide from burnout to boundaries, from doing to being, from strong to soft, and loving every second of it. Today, I want to share something with you that came from a conversation I had recently with Raneice White. Raneice White is doing something extraordinary in this world. She's creating space for high achieving Black women, entrepreneurs, and professionals to finally exhale, to finally put down the cape, to finally choose rest without guilt, without apology, and without explanation. Her work is helping women understand that softness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And that rest isn't something you earn after you've proved your worth. It's a core business strategy, a leadership tool, and a radical act of self love. Renaissance is shifting the narrative for an entire generation of Black women who were taught that survival was their superpower. And she's showing them that thriving, real thriving, begins the moment they choose themselves. So today I'm going to share what Raneice and I talked about because it's something every single one of us needs to hear, especially if you've been running on fumes, filling every hour with meetings and responsibilities, and telling yourself that rest is something you'll get to later after everything else is done. Let me start with this. We've been lied to. We've been told that hustle is the price of admission, that grinding harder is the only way to prove we belong, that rest is a luxury reserved for people who've already made it, who've already arrived, who've already earned the right to slow down. And for Black women, especially Black women entrepreneurs and professionals, this lie cuts even deeper because we're navigating systemic barriers, bias, and a world that constantly demands we do more with less. We're praised for our resilience, celebrated for our strength, and expected to keep going no matter what. But nobody's asking how we're really doing. Nobody's creating space for us to rest. Here's what Renae's helped me see and what the research is now confirming. Rest is not a reward, rest is a strategy. Rest is not something you do after you've succeeded. Rest is how you sustain success. Let me say that again because I need you to really hear this. Rest is not something you do after you've succeeded. Rest is how you sustain success. Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs in America. We own millions of businesses. We generate tens of billions of dollars in revenue every single year. We're building consulting firms, tech startups, beauty brands, local service companies, and culture shifting movements. We are leading, we are innovating, we are creating. But here's the part nobody talks about. We're also exhausted. We're burned out. We're operating in survival mode, filling every gap, solving every problem, and carrying everyone else's weight on our backs. And we're doing it while facing lower revenues, less access to capital, and structural barriers that make it harder to scale, harder to sustain, and harder to simply breathe. This isn't just anecdotal, this is documented. Black women own businesses, despite being the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs in the United States, consistently report lower revenues and face more difficulty accessing capital and institutional support. The cultural and economic pressure to prove themselves leads many Black women to overwork, limit rest, and operate in constant survival mode. Structural barriers like discrimination, lack of networks, and caregiving burdens further complicate efforts to build sustainable, scalable companies. So when Renee talks about rest as a business tool, she's not talking about bubble baths and spa days. She's talking about something much deeper. She's talking about the kind of rest that protects your clarity, your creativity, and your capacity to lead. the kind of rest that allows you to make better decisions, think more strategically, and show up as the leader your business actually needs. Let me tell you about Jackie B. Grice. Jackie is a Black woman entrepreneur and wellness advocate who works with women business owners, many of them Black, to integrate rest, meditation, and stillness into their business practices. Jackie saw what so many of us are living: women filling every hour with meetings and responsibilities, women treating rest as something to be earned only after everything else was done, women ignoring the early signs of burnout, fatigue, brain fog, irritability, loss of creativity, and pushing harder instead of pausing. And Jackie said, enough. She developed a set of practical strategies to reposition rest as a non negotiable business tool. She encouraged entrepreneurs to schedule stillness on their calendars with the same seriousness as client meetings. She taught them to begin each day with meditation or prayer before checking email or social media, grounding themselves before engaging with external demands. She challenged the belief that rest must be earned, reframing it as a strategic necessity for sustainable success. And she trained women to listen to their bodies for early signs of burnout and to respond with intentional pauses and adjustment instead of pushing harder. The results? Entrepreneurs who adopted Jackie's practices reported greater clarity in decision making and more creative, strategic thinking. They reported reduced stress and a deeper sense of personal alignment with their business goals. They reported the ability to lead from a place of wisdom instead of constant urgency and exhaustion. Jackie's approach demonstrates how rest centered leadership can protect both the founder's well being and the long term health of the business. And her message supports a structural shift. If Black women who own millions of businesses and generate tens of billions in revenue embrace rest as strategy, the ripple effects on business longevity, innovation, and community health can be profound. Jackie's work emerges from the broader context that Black women are the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs in America, yet consistently face structural barriers: lower access to capital, higher rates of burnout, and the expectation to do more with less. Seeing how often Black women were praised for their resilience but not supported in their rest, she formalized her methods into teachable frameworks and began sharing them through workshops, coaching, and media features. She became a featured voice in national media discussing rest as an underused but critical tool for women entrepreneurs. She developed practical, repeatable strategies that women can incorporate into busy schedules without sacrificing their ambitions. And she helped reframe the narrative for Black women entrepreneurs from constant hustle to intentional, rested, and aligned leadership. Now, I want to be clear about something. This is not just about individual choices, this is also about systems. There's research out of West Virginia University that looked at rural women entrepreneurs. And while the study focused broadly on rural women, the principle is deeply relevant to Black women and Black professionals. The research found that when communities invest in structural support, childcare, financial access, education, and community connections, women's businesses grow and local economies benefit. For Black women entrepreneurs in rural or under resourced areas, these supports function as external forms of rest and relief. They reduce the constant pressure to do everything alone. They create space for entrepreneurs to operate from alignment instead of chronic stress. The study found that rural women entrepreneurs often face limited access to childcare, financial institutions, educational opportunities, and supportive networks. These barriers force many women to juggle business responsibilities with unpaid care work and financial stress, increasing burnout risks and limiting business growth. For Black women in rural communities, these challenges are frequently compounded by racial disparities in lending, education, and institutional support. But when communities invested in affordable childcare, improved access to financial institutions and capital, expanded educational opportunities, and training tailored to women entrepreneurs, and built community connections and support networks, the outcomes were clear. Communities saw economic growth tied directly to women's entrepreneurship. Women entrepreneurs were more able to sustain and expand their businesses when they had reliable childcare, financial access, and community support, rather than trying to solve every problem alone. This research underscores a critical truth. Rest is not only personal, it is systemic. When communities invest in childcare, financial access, education, and networks, they are effectively creating space for entrepreneurs to operate from alignment instead of chronic stress. The study responds to a long standing pattern. Rural and marginalized women, including Black women, often step into entrepreneurship out of necessity but lack the ecosystem support required to thrive. Researchers documented how these gaps in childcare, finance, and education create chronic stress and logistical barriers that undermine both business outcomes and personal well being. In effect, communities were benefiting from women's labor and leadership without providing the rest and resources needed to sustain that leadership. So here's what I want you to take away from this conversation with Raneice White. First, rest is a strategic business asset, not a luxury. Treating rest as part of your operations, scheduling stillness the same way you schedule success, leads to better decision making, clearer thinking, and stronger leadership. This is especially crucial for Black women who are launching businesses at the fastest rate yet often face revenue, burnout, and survival challenges. Second, you cannot build a sustainable business from exhaustion and self neglect. Burnout rarely happens overnight. It creeps in as fatigue, brain fog, irritability, and loss of creativity. When you intentionally pause, meditate, and listen to your body, you catch the warning signs early and protect both your health and your business. Long term success for Black entrepreneurs depends on honoring your capacity, not constantly pushing past it. Third, aligned leadership and community support multiply your impact. Black entrepreneurs who invest in mentorship, peer networks, and community support, and who lead from inner alignment rather than stress, tend to build businesses on their own terms and create broader economic and social impact. For Black professionals, the path forward is not solitary grind. It's rested, resourced, and supported leadership that transforms communities as well as bottom lines. Now, I know some of you are listening to this and thinking, but LeAnne, I don't have time to rest. I have bills to pay. I have clients to serve. I have people depending on me. I hear you. I see you. And I want to gently challenge that belief because the truth is, you don't have time not to rest. You don't have time to keep running on empty, making decisions from exhaustion and leading from depletion. You don't have time to ignore the fatigue, the brain fog, the irritability, and the loss of creativity that are telling you your body and your business need something different. Rest is not taking time away from your business. Rest is protecting the foundation your business is built on, and that foundation is you. The explosion in Black women entrepreneurship is tied to long histories of both exclusion and innovation. Many Black women turn to business ownership in response to workplace discrimination, pay inequity, and a desire to create more autonomous, values aligned careers. As they launched companies, they encountered the same oppressive systems from a different angle: capital gaps, bias in lending, and societal expectations of endless resilience. This context makes the conversation about rest and sustainable leadership not just personal, but deeply structural and political. Black women now own millions of businesses and generate over $60 billion in annual revenue. They are recognized publicly as the fastest growing demographic of entrepreneurs in the United States. They are building industries from beauty to tech on their own terms, using culture, community, and innovation as differentiators. This growth reshapes the entrepreneurial landscape. Black women's leadership is driving job creation, community investment, and culture shifting brands. When rest aligned leadership and community support become central to how these businesses operate, the impact extends beyond individual founders to families, neighborhoods, and entire sectors. So here's my question for you, and I want you to sit with this. If rest is a core business strategy, not a reward, what is one concrete way you will build rest and stillness into your work week starting today? And who in your community can you invite to hold you accountable to leading from alignment instead of exhaustion? Maybe it's scheduling a 30-minute block of stillness on your calendar every morning before you check email. Maybe it's ending your workday at a specific time and protecting that boundary, like your life depends on it, because it does. Maybe it's reaching out to another Black woman entrepreneur and saying, let's check in on each other every week, not just about business metrics, but about how we're really doing. Whatever it is, I want you to commit to it. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Because here's what Raneice White and Jackie B. Grice and the research and the lived experience of millions of Black women entrepreneurs are all telling us. The truly radical move is not doing more. The truly radical move is leading from wholeness instead of exhaustion. The truly radical move is treating rest, meditation, and stillness as non negotiable parts of the business plan, just like marketing or sales. And when we do that, when we choose rest as strategy, when we lead from alignment, when we build businesses that nourish us as much as they nourish others, we don't just change our own lives, we change our families, we change our communities, we change the entire landscape of what Black entrepreneurship and Black leadership can look like. So I'm asking you to make a choice, right? Not later, not when things calm down, not when you finally feel like you've earned it. We're right now. Choose rest, choose alignment, choose yourself, because the world doesn't need more burned out Black women carrying everyone else's weight. The world needs rested, resourced, aligned Black women leading from wholeness and building legacies that last. You deserve to rest. You deserve to lead from alignment. You deserve to build a business and a life that feels good, not just looks good. And you don't have to earn that. You already are that. Now go schedule that stillness. Go set that boundary. Go call that sister and hold each other accountable. Go lead from the soft, powerful, unapologetic place that only you can lead from, because your rest is not selfish. Your rest is revolutionary, and your aligned leadership is the future we've all been waiting for.